Comparative Anatomy Dissections by William, Terry, Cosmo, and Max. Frog, or Rana ferreri. Animalia, chordata, amphibia, anura, Rana ferreri. Rana being the genus name, Rana ferreri being the species name. They live in mostly aquatic habitats like lakes and rivers. They are lower on the food chain, generally eating bugs and being eaten by reptiles and other amphibians. Frogs mate in the spring and they fertilize eggs outside the body during amplexus. The abiotic factors that they prefer includes decent amount of rainfall, temperatures, typically warm or high, and high humidity in order to survive. That is what they need.
Next, we have the common rat, otherwise known as Rattus norvegicus. The taxonomic ranks are Animalia, Chordata, Mammalia, Rodentia, Rattus, and Rattus norvegicus. Rats live in all types of biomes but have become adept at living in cities. Biotic factors include predation, human activity, other mammals like mice. Abiotic include rainfall and temp. Rats are mainly scavengers that eat whatever they can find. They are prey to many other animals like coyotes and birds of prey. Female rats go through a period of receptivity where they will mate with a male rat, and the eggs are fertilized in the rat and they will give live birth.
Now we will begin the anatomy comparison. The digestive system of rats and frogs are very similar, both having a mouth and an anus, both being deuterostomes. They have small and large intestines, but one difference is frogs' saliva is produced with their tongue rather than the 3 glands that rats have. Frogs also have a gallbladder, which is not present in rats. Both have esophagus that lead to the stomach, and they both have livers, while rats have 2 sphincters and frogs only have 1 sphincter. Next, we'll move on to the reproductive and excretory systems. Frogs' reproduction and rats' reproduction differ greatly. Frogs have a cloaca where both eggs and sperm come from. The eggs are laid, and then the male frog fertilizes the eggs after the female lays them. They do not give live births. Rats, on the other hand, will have a penis and testes or a vagina and a uterus, where fertilization will take place in the uterus during sexual intercourse.
In the respiratory system, rats have better lungs because their lungs have many alveoli, while frogs have thin skin that lets oxygen go through their skin, and rats rely on their lungs to breathe. Also, rats also have longer and wider tracheas than frogs because frogs use lungs breathing and vocal pumping to breathe, while rats only use their diaphragm. In the respiratory system, a frog's heart is different than a rat's heart because they only have a single ventricular, while rats have hearts that are similar to humans, containing 2. Both rats and frogs have pulmonary circular systems that blood circulates through the heart and the blood vessels.
Moving on, the circulatory system between a rat and a frog are also very similar, both having a pulmonary circulatory system where the main way blood is circulated and oxygenated is through the heart. But the main difference is frogs only have a 3-chambered heart while rats have a 2-chambered heart. Also, frogs' red blood cells contain a nucleus because they do not need as much oxygen as mammals, so they did not evolve to get rid of the nucleus in the blood cells to store more oxygen.
Nervous system. Rats have a larger brain than frogs and complex abilities. Rats also have a longer spinal cord than frogs, giving them a more complex nervous system. Rats as well have a better sense of hearing and vision than frogs. Now, frogs have a special reflex called the startle response, which helps them to escape from predators. Rats, on the other hand, use a number of different reflexes, including stretch reflex, withdrawal reflex, and cross extensor reflex. So overall, rats have a much more complex and more advanced nervous system than frogs. Now, general comparison. A common ancestor of the rat and frog is believed to be Cantostega. It has a similar bone structure to both rats and frogs. Frogs developed the tail, as it would be cumbersome to their movement. Rats kept the tail for body heat regulation and better balance. Now, Acantostega comes from the same class as mammals and amphibians. So rats and frogs share many similarities in their digestive and circulatory systems. The main difference is their reproductive and respiratory systems. Now, frogs are more adapted for aquatic habits, while rats have made more adaptations for terrestrial life.
From this lab, we can see that rats and frogs most likely diverged from their common ancestor due to some mutations that allowed them to survive better on land and some in the water. As temperatures rose and more bodies of water became inhabitable by the aquatically adapted species, they evolved separately than the ones who stayed in land, and that is why we see such a big difference between the two animals today.